All right, welcome back, 4L scholars. Just wanted to go through the practice that goes along with your first subjunctive review that uh, we just went through. So this is, if you're following along in the packet, this is the very next page. So the instructions are, all you're going to do is change the indicative verbs to their subjunctive forms. Okay, you're not translating anything yet. We're just looking at the forms. So remember, you do have to know what conjugation each verb is for this to work, but remember the shortcut, right? If the way you identify the conjugation a verb is in is based on the stem vowel, right? You look at the infinitive, you chop off the RE, and the vowel that you're left with is your stem vowel. So for a first conjugation, that A. For a second, I'll put the first. For the second conjugation, it's a long E. For a third, it's a short E. For fourth, it's a long I, right? That's your general sort of guidelines. Now remember, in the subjunctive, these change, right? That's how you know it's in the subjunctive. So to make that change, the A becomes an E. Long E becomes EA for second conjugation. For third conjugation, short E becomes an A, and for long I, it becomes IA. And remember, for those weird third IO verbs, and there are a couple, they're third conjugation, but they actually work like a fourth. So that's why they changed to IA. All right, so using this as our guideline, let's go ahead and really quickly go through the change here for the 10 verbs that we've looked at. Most of them you'll find are pretty simple. So number one, amat, well, there's that A, so A becomes E. Amet. Number two, we have habemur. You'll notice it's passive this time, but remember, active or passive doesn't matter. You can still make it subjunctive by changing the stem vowel. So this one also nice and easy. You have this long E, habemur, so E to EA. So your answer in the subjunctive would be habiamur, or habiamur, excuse me. All right, number three, again, not so bad. We have audis, or actually audis, can have the long mark here. But you have an I, and that I becomes IA, right? So audias. All right. Number four, we have monatis from the verb moneo, monere, that we used as an example the other day. So monatis, again, this one's nice and easy because we have the long E and we can see it. So second conjugation verb, moneo, monere, we're going to change that vowel to EA. So our answer, moniatis. Okay? And I should have mentioned, at any point, I mean, please feel free. You really should be doing these yourself first. So if you got into this point, just following along, go ahead and pause and try the rest of them yourself, and unpause it and come back, and we can check the answers. Okay. All right. So for number five, we have copiunt. This one might be a little tricky because you have to know, the conjugation of the verb for it to work. So these do, get a little trickier the farther down you go. Copiunt, you should hopefully recognize as the verb copio, copere. So just by looking at it, copio, copere, ... This is a third IO, right? So it's a third conjugation verb, but it acts like a fourth, right, because of this I. So when you look back at your verb charts from the other day, with a fourth conjugation verb, you remember that in the third person plural, so the they form, you have to add this you in when you're on those verbs. But anyway, so that will actually drop out here, as you see. So when we make this present indicative verb into the subjunctive, okay, same step, that I turns into IA. So even though it's a third IO verb, remember it acts like a fourth. So the I shows you IA. So we have copia, right? We can get rid of the U because we only need that for the present, present indicative, all right? And put our ending back on, right? Copiant. Right, that one's a little tricky, but number 6, nice and easy. We have the lovely verb, neko, nekare, but it's a first conjugation verb, so here we are. We have our long A. The long A becomes an E, so instead of nekamos, we have nekemos. And that actually would turn into a long mark, but we'll leave that off for now. Number 7, pugnantur. Again, this one's passive. That doesn't matter. It's still present indicative. We're going to make it present subjunctive. So pugnantur, that A becomes an E. So pugnentur. Okay. Number 8, I actually made a spelling error on the original form. It says laudar on your sheet. It should actually be laudor. Laudar is not a thing. It should be laudar, but it's actually laudor. But this would be the present passive indicative for the verb laudo, laudare. Now it's actually trickier when I put it in the real form. But the form that you have, it has an A, so it would be nice and easy to figure out. Because the A becomes an E, right? Remember that whole thing with first conjugation verbs in the first person singular. The stem vowel, the A, actually goes away. But only in the first conjugation, right? Well, so this one's kind of needlessly confusing now that I've corrected it. But in any event, scholars, just remember that if you start off with a first conjugation, you kind of assume the A is there. So you replace the vowel that's there with your subjunctive vowel, the E. So the answer, lauder. Okay. Moving right along, almost done here, we have number 9, fugio. So fugio, fugere, we have another third IO verb. But again, when you're just looking at it, it actually, I think, it's easier in this instance to not get mixed up with, is it a third IO or whatever? You see the I tells you it goes IA, at least in these IO verbs. So fugio, first person singular, okay, present active indicative. We're going to make it first person singular, present active subjunctive. So remember your chart from the page previous, I believe. Your stem vowel does the same, change, right? So your stem is just still going to look like this, but the vowel changes to IA, okay, because of the I. And then instead of an O, remember that in the first person singular of the present subjunctive, instead of O, ST, mustis, NT, it goes M, ST, mustis, NT. Okay, so fugiam. All right, and then finally, I saved a tricky one for last, number 10, we have agiatus. I've said a few times now that, well, if you have an I, it just turns into an IA. Well, unfortunately, that works for third IO verbs, but for a regular third conjugation verb, it doesn't. And the reason is, for reasons we won't go into right now, remember that a third conjugation verb, if you think back, when you conjugate it, a lot of times the third gets rid of the E. And I realize how confusing that is in the abstract without the chart next to you. But suffice to say, right now, the most important thing is to realize, okay, well, it's agiatus. I should know that that's the verb ago, agere, agiactum, okay? So because it starts with ag, okay, well, that means it's present tense, like we already know. But since it's not an IO verb, remember your stem vowel is still that short E, that's what you're changing. So we're right here on the chart, or the transformation. So once you put those things together in your head, you have your stem, you know that this is really the change you're making. Okay, so you're changing the stem vowel to an A. So instead of agatus, you have agatus. Okay, and really quickly here, we can just look at part B really fast. We did an exercise like this the other day with regular indicative verbs. Some of these are indicative, some of them are subjunctive. But if you look at it right here, so I tell you what conjugation the verb is. Okay, sort of give you a little cheat sheet here. So you're going to give me the 5 characteristics. Remember, every verb has 5 characteristics, whether it's Latin or English. Okay, so I give you a verb form, right? And then you tell me the 5 characteristics of each verb. So you can get that from a few different ways, right? I think really the main point here, since we've already gone through in the previous exercises and looked at how to find each for each verb, how to find the 5 characteristics. Here, I think we're just going to look really quickly on how to tell the mood just by looking at it. Okay, so sort of the reverse of what we've done up here. All right, if you have a verb that is laudes, and you know that it comes from laudo, laudare, okay, a first conjugation verb. Well, what's your stem vowel for first conjugation verb? Laudo, laudare, chop off the re. Your stem vowel is a long A. Well, if you go from a long A to an E, it's subjunctive, okay? So this one is subjunctive mood. Okay? And the other characteristics you can tell, just look back at the last video. It ends in S, so second person singular. These are all going to be present tense because that's the only one we know so far for the subjunctive. Okay? Next one, videmus. Well, if it comes from the verb video, videre, okay? Go to your infinitive, chop off the re. Your stem vowel is a long E. If your stem vowel is the same for the second conjugation verb, it hasn't changed, well, then it's not subjunctive. It's indicative. Okay, do another one here. Dicot, from dico dicere. Well, again, dico dicere, chop off the re. You have a short E, but here you have an A. If you have a short E that turns into an A, you have subjunctive. All right. Number 4, venio venire. Should I have a long mark here? Sorry. Venio venire is the verb, and we have our conjugated form of veniaris. Okay. So again, we can do our test here. So we go to the second principal part. We chop off the re. Our stem vowel is supposed to be a long I, or just an I, depending. So let's look at our form. Well, our ending here, veniaris. Well, you remember your passive endings from the other day, aris tour, mormoniantur. So this is passive. We can chop off that passive ending, and all of a sudden we notice our stem vowel now is IA. So if you have a long I that becomes IA, you have subjunctive. Okay? And again, trickiest for last, we used our verb ago agere again. Third conjugation verb. And this one, again, is the one that has that tricky change, even in the regular old indicative. So, but you follow your steps, go to the second part, chop off the re. Your stem vowel is a short E. All right, and we look at our conjugated form, chop off this ending, mus. Our stem vowel here is an I. Well, again, you don't see an E turn into an I in our chart here. And that's because this is the normal change for the third conjugation in a regular, situation, i.e. in the indicative. So this, even though it has a weird looking change, it's actually indicative. So I hope what you saw in doing this is it really helps to, write this out whenever you need it. Write it right on the page, or type it up, or write it on a sticky note or something. It really doesn't matter. It's just the point is, make things easy for yourself. Memorize this change, and remember from yesterday, you can do an acronym to remember this. Your book likes to use "She wears a giant tiara," right? Doubling up on this one for the third IO. All right. So anyway, there you go. Hopefully that helps you go through your practice for today. There will be another video, a separate video for the translation stuff on the next page. So thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you, scholars.